I accidentally manifested my spiritual awakening, and it transformed my life in a good way, but the path was very dangerous and scary. In this episode, I'm gonna walk you through my journey, how it happened, what are the perks, where was the catch, and all my lessons learned. So you won't have to make the same mistakes and come prepared to this game called spiritual awakening. Icing on the cake would be the biggest secret to my manifestation technique. So stick around, guys, you'll enjoy it. A metric ton of people spend years chasing spiritual awakening. They meditate, they self-reflect, they bend their mind with ayahuasca and other psychedelic substances. But me, I didn't seek it, I didn't want it. I thought it was just a new age woo-woo kind of thing, and those meditators, they were just wasting precious time of their life. Just sit still and do nothing. What a life. And of course, I never believed that manifestation was a real thing. But oh boy, how blind I was. I didn't seek it, but I manifested it without knowing that I was actually manifesting it. It hit me like a runaway train and nearly destroyed me. I came dangerously close to losing my mind. But here's the thing, sometimes losing your mind is the only way to save your life. That's the biggest lesson learned. So this awakening was my lifeline in the middle of divorce from my wife, an alcoholic drowning both of us down. You see, I was never the guy who believed in miracles. I believed in math, in physics, in things you can prove. Born and raised in Siberia, Russia. You can tell it by my sexy Russian accent, where the only magic was surviving the freaking winter. Science made sense to me. It's predictable, it's logical, it's undeniable. Gravity remains undefeated. Engineering, probability theory, programming. If it had rules, I trusted it. And I was running a small video production studio back in Siberia. Nothing special. YouTube, documentaries, corporate videos, podcasts. But then they started this bloody war with Ukraine. So me and my wife had to move to United States, to Los Angeles. They let us in. I thought, great, I'd just pick up where I left off. It's Hollywood, the epicenter of filmmaking. If you're good at what you do, you're gonna make it, right? Wrong. I clawed my way through the industry. Assistant colorist at a couple of post houses, then colorist, then my own color grading business, then DIT seemed cool, like more legwork and engineering and less sitting on a chair and masking. Hustled my way onto big sets, and finally, I landed this gig on Al Pacino's latest film. Unionized myself for that, like Local 600, a made man. Until one day. I remember that day. It was a wonderful day, by the way. I was given a director of photography a piece of advice. Kinda eureka piece of advice. Like, we save time, everybody wins, project wins, it's beautiful, let's do it. And he liked it. But one of the producers, not so much. And the only explanation is that my advice kinda made his dick look small. So he fires me at the end of the day and saying something like, "Max, DIT is just a dongle." At the time, it felt like disaster. But in reality, it was a blessing in disguise. It freed up my schedule for August, and it allowed me to take my alcoholic wife back to Siberia, in a nice rehab, her parents' house. And that's when it all started, the unexplainable, synchronicities, impossible coincidences, moments so bizarre they kinda shattered everything I thought I knew. For many years, my wife chose alcohol, and for many years I carried her to the bathroom when she couldn't walk on her own. During those withdrawals, 4 years in a row, I tried everything. Nothing worked. I kept carrying those buckets of vomit to the toilet, making sure she drank more water than she threw up. Then one day, I found her laying on the bathroom floor, in her urine. I rushed to her to check the pulse. Thank God she was alive, just passed out drunk. And I remember this kind of mixed feeling. It's like relief followed by uncontrolled anger mixed with devastation. It felt like a rock bottom for me, like a wake-up call. I was sitting there and crying. My dad passed away a couple months before that event, and I didn't cry that much and she didn't care. She was just out there lying on the bathroom floor, unconscious, almost unconscious. I guess every hero needs a crisis in their journey in the first act, and that was my crisis. And I remember I was sitting there on that floor, crying, and several realization came to my head. First, I was the enabler of her addiction. I had to stop our marriage to give her a wake-up call. But I needed the plan. But I was good at planning, so I made one. And the plan was to trick her, to convince her to go on a several-week family reunion. And I knew that that's going to be hard because she's smarter than me. However, I'm a better actor. So we went to her parents' house. The moment we entered that house, I gave her into her parents' custody, and the next day I went to the airport, leaving behind a note and a broken wristwatch. I broke them myself. It was like an Easter egg to Interstellar, and note was, "I have to go to save you" kind of note. Look for the pattern on that broken watch. Very romantic. Didn't work. And I have to rush to go because I knew that if I were around for a couple of weeks, eventually she would do the same old eyes of this Puss in the Boots from Shrek, and I'll totally surrender and give her 805th chance. But no, not this time. I remember that evening I was lying in the bed listening to the headphones and this music from Madonna, this song from Madonna, The Power of Goodbye. And I'm like, airport. No matter what, in the morning, whatever the flight was to Istanbul. Neat. That decision was impossibly hard to make. But I knew that I was the one who enabled her addiction. And unfortunately, together, both of us would be drowned to death. So I'm standing in a line at a Siberian airport, anxious, terrified, petrified, crying. And no subtle tears. It wasn't just the subtle tears. It was a full-blown breakdown. Apparently, airports are designed for those types of emotional breakdowns. Then I see this kid, maybe 16 years old, waving an American passport around, speaking fluent English over the phone with a hint of Georgian accent. You don't see an American teenager traveling solo through Siberia every day. He was looking like a penguin chilling in Miami. Curiosity wins, and we talk. Turns out his mom, Russian, divorced his American dad, moved back to Russia to become a plastic surgeon. Kids stay in US, visited summers, and now there he is, bilingual, young, and traveling alone. A perfect candidate for imprisonment in modern days Russia. But that never stopped him. Brave. I like that. As we chatted, my anxiety kinda eased. It turns out talking to a stranger is way cheaper than a therapy. And we're about to board a 6-hour flight to Istanbul, and I was thinking to myself, it would be nice to sit close to this kid. I needed that distraction, because if you're in the middle of conversation, and especially if it's in English, and English is not my first language, so I have to make my brain work, occupied, rather than thinking about my wife, doubting myself. I needed that distraction. And of course, we're several rows apart. Perfect. At least 2 seats to me are non-occupied, despite the plane being absolutely full. But here's the catch. They were vacant because this is a non-recliner row, and none of the passengers wanted to sit there, except me, last minute I don't care passenger. I settle into my seat, still crying without tears, wondering if leaving my wife behind in Russia to her parents' custody to deal with her addiction is the right move. My rational side says yes, but my emotional side says bullshit. And as I sit there, moments after a long cry, watching the clouds, it was beautiful sunrise on those majestic clouds, and this song starts to play. Lyrics say, someone like her only comes once in a lifetime. Thank you, universe. Just twist that knife a little deeper, why don't you? So that knife was kind of twisting and turning and looking for something in my heart. And after that song finished, I felt like a deep sense of peace, like a moment of reconciliation, so to say. I wasn't in my mind anymore. I was just enjoying the clouds, the scenery, and I felt that goosebumps all across my body, not just in my spine, but all across, everywhere. But it was only for a moment, and then those thoughts, those doubts, they came back again in my head. Tired of them completely, I thought to myself, well, I have nothing to lose. Let me try that, and this idea pops in my head. I stood up and I shouted on the entire airplane, God, if you exist, just give me the sign. Am I doing this right? Was it a good decision? Of course, people looked at me with this funny smile on their faces. It was I would like if I was completely crazy. But you know what? Their opinion of me was nothing at the time, nothing. I had a bigger thing to worry about. And here's the kicker. 10 seconds later, a woman head into the restroom, hits the deck, like literally collapses right next to my seat. Full-blown medical emergency. If there's doctor on board, identify themselves to the flight attendants. And we're talking like a movie-level chaos. They start running back and forth. Medical emergency. And thank God there was a doctor on board. Pro tip, always travel with the doctor, or at least pretend you're the doctor. And the doc immediately says she needs to lie down. Feet up, head down. Except, plot twist, there's exactly one spot on this entire aircraft where that's even remotely possible. My row. Flight attendant sees my glorious empty adjacent seats, locks an eyes with me, and before she even begins to talk, I know what she's gonna offer me, and I'm like, let's do it. And guess what? That woman was seated directly next to this kid I secretly wished to sit by. Universe, your time is impeccable. At the time, did I have any idea that that was a full-on manifestation, instant manifestation event? Absolutely not. To me back then, it was just dumb luck. A funny coincidence. That lady is perfectly fine, by the way, I double-checked. But then a few hours later, another coincidence popped up, and then another. And before I knew it, my life turned into some bizarre Always Sunny in Philadelphia type of sitcom, directed by Universe herself. Fast forward a few weeks, I'd experienced over maybe 800 of those lucky breaks. So many that I started writing them down, journaling. Turns out when the universe is bombarding you with miracles, the journaling is not a bad idea. Those notes turned into a book that caught attention of a publishing house, and it was published. A link in the description if you're feeling curious. But here's the thing, that airplane episode, that was just an opening title to that sitcom. The real spiritual roller coaster came later, and I got curiouser and curiouser, and stuff got weirder and weirder. So I was enjoying my life, shouting random requests at God, at universe, or genie, or whoever was taking orders up there, and they'd actually happen either the same day or the following day or this week or the following week. So almost like an instant. Ticket to Burning Man from the official website just 1 week before the event, done. First time in the history of Burning Man, no sold out. Just for me. A request for happiness that turns into meeting a girl who finally freed me from broken marriage, done. Jokingly buying everything-proof car insurance, saying something absurd like, but in a case an Acme Corporation anvil falls on my car, and 12 hours later a drunk driver rears-end me, total loss of my brand new ride, which was manifested less than 24 hours ago. Luckily, I was just having one scratch on my forehead, in the shape of a heart, by the way. Unfortunately, also done. I was basically Jaja being stumbling blindly through this cosmic battlefield, accidentally manifesting this and that. It was very like a sitcomish kind of experience, except it was real and it was my life. But, the plot twist, eventually I started the investigation. And I went full spiritual nerd mode. I dove into books, podcasts, YouTube rabbit holes, you name it, Gurdjieff, Blavatsky, Nietzsche, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the Bible, Gnostic text, alchemy, conversations with God, you name it. I was consuming it, enjoyed those reads, and enjoyed the goosebumps I felt as I was reading. And honestly, I felt like a kid in a candy store. My browser tab and Kindle order looked like a Netflix queue of a philosophy professor going through the midlife crisis meets Zen master on ayahuasca. And I didn't just skim through this stuff, I inhaled it, I took notes, hoping to decode that this awakening puzzle I'd stumble into. My favorite games in childhood was puzzles, was quests. So it was fun to me. I was like an Indiana Jones on this journey. The more I read, the more questions I had, but the better my questions got. Every page turned into a clue, and every insight was unlocking another level of this cosmic game I didn't know where I was playing all my life. Imagine my surprise when I realized that universe was way more interesting and way more confusing than my previous picture of the world. Suddenly, consciousness wasn't some vague spiritual concept. It became my new favorite obsession, my personal Rosetta Stone. And I kept manifesting unconsciously more knowledge, and finally landed on this Neville Goddard Law of Assumption book, and this documentary pops out of the thin air, The Secret, on YouTube. And boom, I finally realized what I was doing.
Your wish is my command.
I was tapping into a state of absolute certainty, of, having what I wanted, because it was a fun game to me, and it worked 800 times before. Why wouldn't it work 801st time? Instant manifestation, delivered right to my doorstep. So Max, what's your manifestation secret? I'll do a deep dive into complete manifestation technique in another video, but for now, here's the creme de la creme, the hack that makes manifestation easy AF: music. That's it, my secret sauce for sliding into that I already have it mindset, the law of assumption, is music. Because I realized that event on the airplane, it happened after this soundtrack, after this special song that put me in a moment of peace and the goosebumps. It's like a sort of a GPS kind of thing. Remember when the Soviet Union, they launched the satellite and they start tracking that satellite, and then one of the smart guys says, but can you do it vice versa? What if a moving object is on Earth and those satellites stationary on orbit? They never orbit, they stationary. Can we track in this case? And that's how GPS was created. So I was doing the same thing. What I was exactly doing every time stuff like that happened. Listening to the music and goosebumps. So it has to be music, and it has to turn your full body into this laser sharp goosebumps. And I'm not talking about your Spotify rap playlist. It's gotta be epic. Take the motion picture soundtrack, like my favorite movies. Inception, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Gladiator, Batman, Catch Me If You Can, Forrest Gump, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, those kind of guys. Because you want heroes, and you want to kind of relate to those heroes, and you want to remember their experience, their journey, supported by original motion picture soundtrack. Here's how it works. I think about something I want. I recall one of the episodes from the movie. I put the soundtrack and pop in my headphones. And then, boom, I'm no longer Max, the struggling YouTube creator. I'm Aragorn, storming the Mordor. I'm Maximus Decimus Meridius, standing victoriously in the Coliseum, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions. And at that instant, with Hans Zimmer or John Williams blasting in my ears, I'm at goosebump level certainty that whatever I want is already mine, because it happened like 800 times before. Why wouldn't it happen now? And lately I keep it simple, nothing special. Small stuff like global human awakening, ending all wars, dodging nuclear catastrophe, quantum leap in human awareness, impeachment of Donald Trump, small stuff. Just a tiny bit of something. Just casual dreams to make economy class airplane seating slightly less awkward.
Dream big, right?
At least I know that those types of requests, they're noble, and worst case scenario, I end up a functional author and a full-time YouTuber. Not too shabby, but like every genuine superpower, this one comes with a catch, and we'll get into the danger zone of a spiritual awakening in just a second. First, do me a favor. Before we get into the danger zone and a catch, if you're enjoying the ride, smash that like button, and if you're not enjoying the content, honestly, I'm very impressed you're still here. Okay, Max, great sales pitch, but where's the catch? Glad you ask. Here's the catch. I had to throw my film career under the bus, wave goodbye to romance, and pretty much ghost all of my friends. Because once you stumble upon your life's purpose, once you get face to face to who you really are, you can't fake it anymore. You can't chase money, you can't do people pleasing or play therapist for someone else's drama.
You're on a mission.
And there's no off switch. Once that idea in your subconscious, you're constantly manifesting it without realizing it. And oh boy, I manifested myself a newborn Jesus Christ, saving the planet. Here you go, Mr. Superstar. Write and post 2 videos per week, otherwise feel like crap because you don't use your chance to save the planet. And everything else is just a distraction. And I'm gonna feel bad about distracting myself from my mission. So, oh boy, are you ready for that much power? You lot. Ask yourself. The universe itself, in all of its cosmic kindness, strip away distractions from you. It'll gladly torch the career you were never meant for, demolish your already crumbling relationship if they don't serve you, and isolate you from anyone that can't handle your newfound truth. People will label you as bipolar, autistic, schizophrenic. Take your pick. But here's the good news. You won't even care. You'll wear those labels as the badges of honor. You won't mind if homelessness becomes your new mailing address, as long as your basic survival kit includes food, shelter, Wi-Fi, and in my case, a nice studio, this nice camera, killer lighting, buttery smooth microphone, small stuff. Catches aside, there are tons of perks to that spiritual enlightenment thing. I started to read again. Effortlessly dropped 80 pounds in just a couple of months. Somehow reversed age like Benjamin freaking Button. Ditched smoking and coffee without losing my sanity. Unlocked productivity levels that made Elon Musk look like a lazy guy. Published a book. Jumped out of the perfectly good airplane at the 18,000 feet altitude. And finally, started to live my life at a maximum volume. And of course, I finally became a full-time YouTuber, because once you're hooked on your life's purpose, all you want to do is to create, to inspire, and keep that momentum rolling. And as for the Hollywood film industry, well, screw you, Hollywood. I'm building my own Hollywood.
With blackjack and hookers.
Because I originally wanted to become a filmmaker, to tell my own stories. But I thought that meant crawling from the very bottom of the Hollywood ladder, spending decades tagging on someone else's sleeve, begging to direct a shot. But now, you know what? Screw the ladder. I'm gonna tell my stories my way and not the highway. So ask yourself seriously, are you ready for that? Because true awakening isn't a finish line. It's a never-ending ride that'll leave you permanently changed. It'll put your train full speed into the unknown. And there's no undo button. So are you ready to take the leap of faith? So guys, here you go. I accidentally triggered a spiritual awakening that nearly cost me my sanity, surely did cost me my marriage and my Netflix subscription. But in exchange, I discovered who I really am. I figured out how to hack the reality with movie soundtracks. I appreciate you, Hans Zimmer. And I accepted the fact that I'm now essentially a spiritual influencer without luxury of sponsorship yet. And here's what I learned along the way. My top 10 lessons learned list.
Number 10.
Manifestation is real, but first it might troll you, just a little, before handing you over exactly what you need.
Number 9.
When universe starts talking, listen. Ignoring it only makes it louder. Think your angry mom calling you on a speakerphone loud.
Number 8.
God is real. And surprise, it's you and me and everything and everybody around me. It's a collective consciousness chilling out in those 17's quantum fields that run our universe, and probably a bunch of more universes in this vast, infinite multiverse. And here's the fun fact. Your soul doesn't live in your body. Your soul literally manifests your body every single moment, every single day of your existence. Yeah, tell her about why you never kept that New Year resolutions.
Number 7.
Awakening is less about crystals, yoga mat, and kale smoothies, and more about ditching your fake self and embrace your inner YouTube messiah. No pressure though.
Number 6.
When you step into authenticity, you don't get to pick what stays and what goes. Careers implode, family collapse, friends ghost you, bills get unpaid, and dating? Well, last time I checked, Tinder still doesn't have this checkbox for spiritually enlightened, but temporarily sleeping in the car.
Number 5.
Jesus wasn't a historical figure. He was a force of awakening inside every single one of us. Jesus is a metaphor. We all Jesus. And the only difference between us is that he didn't spend a half of this life questioning his Wi-Fi connection to divine.
Number 4.
Meditation. Meditation saves lives and should be mandatory for literally everyone. It's how we finally crucify our egos, nail them to cross, and resurrect ourselves into John Lennon's Imagine soundtrack the following day.
Number 3.
The Bible is packed with psychological metaphors designed to trigger spiritual awakenings. Taking it literally leads to crusades. Why church doesn't tell you that truth? Well, money and power, because enlightened people don't kneel.
Number 2.
Speaking of religions, they all right. Every single one of them is correct. We just need to treat them metaphorically, like epic fantasy novels, and use them to upgrade, like a guide to upgrade our internal operating system.
Number 1.
My favorite, guys. Star Wars is basically a documentary, and so are The Matrix and Inception. And by the way, that spinning top in the Inception, let me know in the comments, what do you think, it fell or not in the end of the movie? Because I believe that it's a metaphor again, because reality itself is a dream, is a simulation. But this simulation is not for our mind, it's not for our body, and it's not run by an evil AI. It's powered by quantum conscious force of love, aka God. And that force is head over heels in love with you. Even if sometimes it means tearing down your idea of what's good for you to deliver what's truly great instead. Trust me on this, your soul knows better than your brain ever will. And now we have two choices. You take the blue pill, you pretend you never hear any of this and keep scrolling through Cat's video. You take the red pill, you smash that like button, subscribe, and maybe even comment your favorite movie soundtrack.
Bonus point if it's Gladiator.
So here you have it, it's now in your hands, guys. Every like, comment and share helps. The more it spreads, the more lives we touch, the more hearts we inspire, and who knows, maybe, just maybe,
Earth needed the plastic.
just kidding, we even speed up the whole global human awakening process. Consider this as your chance to be part of something, bigger, a spiritual Avengers assembling, if you will, minus the spandex. So let's do it. Click the button, change the world. I'll wait. Thanks, welcome. It's a Sign channel. Here we share everything there is about spirituality, transformation, awakening, alchemy, and everything I learned so far. Because you know what? I manifested the knowledge, and that knowledge is worth sharing. And that's my mission. Spread the word. Raising awareness, saving people, hunting things, family business. Until next time, guys, stay awake, stay curious, and stay away from economy class middle seats, unless you manifest in your next miracle. It was Max, your spiritual gladiator, and it's a Sign channel. Oh, by the way, how about a true story when I was completely naked at the airport on the border control, showing my dick as a valid passport? And that poor lady at the passport control. How about 3 incidents of medical hospitalization where they restrained me to the bed and sedate me heavily so I no longer was able to manifest my crazy ideas?
Oh boy, good times.
Definitely worth subscribing. See you in the next one.